So if that music wasn't enough to invoke sacred time, we will do so with our words. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. Good morning. It's a beautiful fall day. Now we are surrounded by the cone of sacrality. Another way to invoke sacred space, a very real way, is to silence your cell phones. So let's do that. That's not even symbolic. That's real. And it means that we're limiting our attention to what's going on right here and right now. So I'm glad that you are all here, that you brought your attention to this space and created this space together. I hope you had a delightful and safe All Hallows Eve. I hope you or somebody that you love either received or delivered some delicious candy last night. In accordance with the insight and wisdom traditions of the world, today we turn our attention to our beloved departed and our ancestors. Now, last year, we observed this day with a ceremony involving memory and grapes. Do you remember? With the help of some grapes, we embodied our dead. But with so many things at a time where safe spacing is critical, we've had to reinvent how we do ceremony. It just is not a good look for me to be passing out grapes for you to eat right now. And it's really hard for me to throw them all the way to where you are at home. So we're doing it a little bit differently this year. To that end, we sent out a link in the e-bulletin, which if you did not read, you did not know. And so embedded in this ritual is a reminder to read your e-bulletin. But assuming that you did read it, and even if you didn't, it's a very simple thing to do at home. We sent out a link in the e-bulletin that takes you to a page where we asked you to print out a page that looks like this. Now, everybody here had one on their seat when they got here. You at home could actually pause me right now. It's a rare treat to do that. You can pause me right now and print this out, or you can draw it. It's actually a very simple thing to do. It's a cross in the middle of a circle, and where the crosshairs meet, there's an open space. So you can draw that. You'll need a pen anyway for the ceremony that we're going to do. So you could draw it or pause me and print it. You folks here cannot pause me. I'm sorry. So it sort of resembles a medicine wheel if you look at it, but I can assure you that was kind of a happy accident. I did not set out to make a medicine wheel. It's just that this kind of is a fundamental shape, and it generates around many applications, right? So if you have not printed it, go ahead and do it now, or you could draw it. You'll need a pen and a pencil, and this is going to be our altar. So you have your altar in your hands now. And I'll explain how it's going to work as we move through the service. So our theme for this month, incidentally, is healing. Healing. And in fact, go ahead and write that word in the center, that blank space in your altar. Healing. Or you could write wholeness. They're very much related. So in that blank space in the center of your altar, write the word healing. So with this theme at the center of our inquiry, we will soon consult our ancestors on this auspicious occasion, brought to our attention by Samhain, All Hallows Tide, Dia de los Muertos, and other traditions all over the world that observe that the dead feel particularly close, accessible, present at this time of year. It is the time where the warmth outdoors, that beautiful bright summer sun, is brought indoors into our hearth. It's a time of turning inward and a time of transitions, an in-between time. The veil is thin in liminal moments, and this is such a space. It's a bit of a ghostly endeavor. But enough of my hocus pocus for a moment. Let's bring in a mind perhaps more sound. It's a low bar, but we're going to clear it by a lot. Rebecca Lindley is our service associate for the day, and my question for her this week was as follows. I asked Rebecca, what kind of ghost do you believe in? And what is one thing that kind of ghost has taught you?
Thanks, Ron. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca, for those of you who don't know me. I think most of you here do, and a warm welcome to you here. It's so lovely to see everyone's faces, and a warm welcome to everyone at home. Okay, well, when Ron first asked me to speak about ghosts, I balked. Because in my brain, I'm like, ghosts, Halloween. Is this a trick, Ron, a trick or treat? And I think I had the, boo, scary, commercialized, popular media ghosts in my brain. So I rejected the idea, frankly. Took a couple days, I let it play around in my heart and my minds, and of course then I came to the idea about spirits. And yes, Ron, spirits live in our lives all the time, in very tangible ways and in less tangible ways. So I'm going to tell you about two spirits that definitely are present for me in my life. Their stories and their personalities, I think, truly live with me every day. And they are my Nana, my maternal grandmother, and my Auntie Pat, who is her very best friend. And both those women, very strong women, are no longer with us, but their spirit very much lives with me every day. So two strong women, they met in their teens. They were the maids of honor at each other's wedding. They were just an incredible friendship, like probably none I've ever known since. And they taught me a lot about life and about fortitude. Little funny aside, none of us in our family knew how they met. It was a lifetime secret about how they met. And only after my Nan died in her 80s was Auntie Pat released from the lifetime sworn secrecy of the story of how they met. And in honor of that, I'm not going to tell you today the secret of how they met, but I promise I'll tell it another time. It kind of does add to the mystery about these two women, though. They were amazing friends. They lived the majority of their lives very far apart from each other, but they had an incredible bond, which was shared through letters and then later through phone calls. They loved life and the people around them, but in incredibly different ways. And if there's any two spirits, I think, that kind of live in me, it would be these two. So my Nan, my maternal grandmother, Kit Riley, Nana Riley, we would call her, she was a very determined woman. It may not surprise you to know that I come from a long line of determined, strong women. This Nana Riley was the kind of furthest back that I really knew. She was a military wife. She was married to an officer in the British Royal Air Force, so they moved around a lot. She raised 3 children, the youngest of which was significantly mentally handicapped, so lived with her until my Nan went into a nursing home in her 80s. That's parental commitment. Nan's way was the proper way. There were things that just had to be done so. And her children and her grandchildren knew that and grew up knowing that there were certain ways you had to do things. There were a strong sense of morals, of comportment, of just how things were done. but they were very loved, her children and grandchildren. My Nan enjoyed entertaining. There were many fun evenings gathered around her dining room table. She had a strong sense of family, and my sense of family, I'm sure, comes from that, those gatherings that we had there. Her sense of pride and kind of family meals, the perfect way the table was set. The table was laid. I don't think you can use that expression anymore, but the table was laid back then. The way her charm bracelet would clink against the dining room table as she served out everyone individually she served, whether it was dolloping out mashed potatoes or her famous rice pudding. The family still laughs about the time she actually scalded the rice pudding. And you can imagine the smell in the air of the house from the burnt rice pudding that she swore to the day she died. It was not burnt, it was caramelized. My Nan was a matriarch. In a world then that was truly outwardly run by men, she very much ran her family and her home life. Now, my Auntie Pat, on the other hand, was also strong, but in a very different way. She was a widow at a young age, but she was incredibly lighthearted and jovial. She exuded optimism, zeal. There was a joy in her life. I was fortunate enough to have a pen pal relationship with her in my young adult years, and I can still see the letters, like on the blue airmail thin writing paper. She had beautiful curly Q writing, and she would just tell stories, everyday stories, but in this really lovely, positive way, often describing the weekly card games they would go to. Whist she played, and she would write how she won canned pineapple, or she won that week tinned ham. But there was always such delight in this, and she would write about how at the end of each day she would curl up by the fire and have her glass of sherry or port and 3 squares of chocolate. That was her thing. And she would always end her letters with a stick figure drawing of herself, including her glasses and a very round belly that she would draw an arrow to and describe how it was getting bigger because she really had more than 3 squares of chocolate each night. I can still see the twinkle in her eye. She was just a magic woman who would always punctuate her stories and always end her stories with deep, wholehearted laughter. Her loving sense of fun and of joy in just everyday things in her life, like winning tinned pineapple, was a way she touched the lives of all of us around her, her neighbors, her kin from afar. She had an ebullient, sometimes self-deprecating, but always gleeful way of finding joy in every day, and that is something that lives with me to this day. So the spirit of these 2 women lives in me, reminding me of the important things in life, but in very different but exceptionally clear ways. And I'm sure that the way I lead my life and my family is reflected by their influence in my way. To this day, when I hear some jewelry clink against a table, I think my Nan must be in the room. So Ron, I know there's lots of interpretations of ghosts and spirits, but for me, those are 2 spirits that very much live in me and influence the way that I see the world. All right, we're going to sing. We're not going to sing. We're going to enjoy a hymn together. No one here can sing, but at home, we'd love you to sing so loud we can hear you here in the church while we hum together till we give thanks.
It's just a little high. Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. It's been so long. And of course, I forgot that there's people at home who are going to be watching this, so hello to you as well. My name is DJ McKinnon, and I'd like to tell you about how we became attached and committed to this church. I was asked to do this as part of the stewardship work. For many years before we started coming here, we did have Unitarian friends, and we went to a number of Unitarian events in the area. But what made us really turn the corner and become more involved was the coming of age program. Prior to that, I'd been looking into coming of age rituals and studying them and finding out as much as I could, really ever since our oldest, Callum, was a baby. I was researching and trying to figure out ways to create something for him that would be authentic to mark his transition as he got older from childhood to young adulthood. And one thing I learned in the course of my research was that a crucial piece of coming-of-age ceremonies around the world is a witnessing by a community of like-minded people. And though we had friends and people in our lives, family members who shared our values, it was a bit of a daunting proposition to think of a way to come up with a ritual that we could do with our children. And so it never really went anywhere. But I kept trying to bring it up with people and find a way to create it. And then one day somebody said to me, "Oh, the Unitarians have a coming-of-age program." I was like, "Oh, good." So there it was, right in front of my eyes. I didn't have to let my son resort to what I call the 3 L's of the rites of passage of mainstream culture: getting laid, getting loaded, and getting your driver's license. Not very deep or worthy transitions, and none that acknowledge the lessons of childhood, those who shepherd them through it, nor does it call on the youth to become their best selves and step into positions of greater responsibility within the community. We want it more for our son. And there it was in front of me all along. And it was the opening for us to embrace this community more fully, something we were very happy we did, and which we value greatly. Since his coming-of-age ritual, Callum has been involved with UU youth conferences, worships, and other activities with both children and adults in this church, as well as across the greater Vancouver UU community. And from this immersion, we as a family have found an intergenerational community that has woven the strands of our social, political, and spiritual lives. In this year of disruption, when what we used to call normal is more community is even more important to us now than ever in all its manifestations, from maintaining a connection with isolated elders to sharing philosophical writings to making music together. With love and gratitude to you all and everything you mean to us. Wojciech.
Thank you, DJ. You know, the rites of passage, the witnessing by a community, and I'm thinking about that as I'm also still resounding with the lyric of, for all those gathered here, we give thanks, right? And then putting that in play with the theme of our day makes me think that the community of witness is bigger than those who are here right now, bigger than those who are attending in whatever way they are in a physical way, right? Like we bring all the spirits of our ancestors with us to this place. And we do give thanks for them. Okay. Do you have your altars at hand? I know everybody here does. At home, please get your altars at hand. Have them ready, something to write with. And so today we'll see what healing can be done in cooperation with our ancestors. This may take some imagination in order to unleash the spirit from its materialist coma. So in order to lubricate your imagination, I want to tell you a little story. Do you believe there is meaning in coincidence? Or is coincidence better described as convergence? I ask because two of the books that I'm currently reading spoke to each other in a very strong way this week. And I believe that their conversation can help us. So one book is called Plant Intelligence in the Imaginal Realm. And there the author had just lined out a great deal of chemistry and ecology to demonstrate that all ecological areas, which is to say, everywhere you go, are comprised of tightly coupled interactions on and between all levels of being in constant responsiveness to one another, like some infinite jazz band. And the big reveal was that over time, all these communications actually wind up shaping the communicators. The music shapes the instruments over time. The physical is shaped by the meaningful. We are, everything is, ambassadors crafted by our mission. We do not move through topography. We move through a Gaian grammar, an unscored symphony. We live amidst and as earthly thoughts from which we are not separate. In essence, we are messages. The world is not built on atoms so much as it is built on messages. So shifting into this consciousness the author holds is akin to the synesthetic practice of reading, whereby scanning the ink on a page, we are led to experience feelings, meanings, and sensations that, while intended by the author, are not even necessarily specifically described in those ink symbols, right? You read a page of fiction, and the author might give you one detail, and you will fill the entire room. So in a similar fashion, with a little intention and a little practice, he says that we are able to similarly read reality. It's a kind of dream scene, a kind of dreaming. It's a level of consciousness that the author identifies as rampant, not confined to humans, but in fact similar in humans and plants and ecoranges. He argues that the world is replete with beings dreaming in this way and responding to the unscored music they hear from each other. Grounded imagination. Imagination literally in the ground. Dreaming. So that was mind-blowing and made a kind of confirming sense. And then the next morning, I pick up another book, my morning book. It's called Sand Talk. It's a book by a man indigenous to Australia's Appalachian clan. And he's irritated because he can't quite wrap his mind around a trusted elder finding hidden messages in street signs and iPhones. And he wonders in dismay to this distinguished elder, how is that my dreaming? To which the elder replied, all dreaming, all language, all message. See? Okay, so within 24 hours, I've read in 2 books out of the billions of books out there, or even out of the hundreds that I would be interested in reading, 2 books that were written in wildly different contexts, where I just happened to have read them at such a pace, where the specific point they are each making in that juncture of their argument, their specific message is that everything is a message. See? And now we are all in the same message. And with that, we turn humbly to consult our ancestors for messages of healing. First, we will ground ourselves and frame our interior space. So you can see on your altars that there are some symbols in the 4 quadrants. Starting clockwise from the upper left, those symbols represent fire, fire, earth, water, and air. So if you go clockwise, starting from the upper left, fire, earth, water, and air. They're the same elements invoked in the same order as we frame ourselves during prayer here on Sundays. It's also true that many of the traditions that hail the ancestors on this day feature those elements in their ceremony. They are grounding. These elements are the mediums of life, the conveyors of message. Now, as Allison plays the bowl, I will ask you to draw to mind a memory image of each of these elements to make of your mind a good conductor. So, imagining a fire, imagining some good ground, some water. When you get to the point of air, you might take a deep breath and remember a place time of good breathing. These elements frame our intention. Imagine them in as much sensual detail as you can. And imagine how you feel in their presence. And you may write notes to yourself about those sensations in the appropriate space. Memory of fire. Memory of earth. Now that we are grounded, we will welcome the presence of our ancestors and forebears. I ask you to bring to mind a lineage by which you are strongly informed, a way of thinking, a way of experiencing the world. Now, this is not likely to be a blood relative, but an ancestor of the mind. So, in the appropriate space, where it says lineage, which I believe is in the bottom left, write the name of a character most prominently associated with that lineage. So if it's Taoism, write the name Lao Tzu. If it's liberation, maybe you write Frederick Douglass. Transcendentalism. It's all messages. This one says our battery's running low. So if it's transcendentalism, Margaret Fuller might be your name. So what lineage frames your experience? Invoke the culture hero most associated with that lineage and write that name outside the bottom left wedge of your altar. I now invite you to go deeper and more broad even than lineage. We are the offspring of generations. We are the offspring even ultimately of the earth. The earth and its processes are our ancestors, our mother. So let your imagination settle on some biology, a tree, a lagoon, a single vein in a single leaf, a murmur of bacteria, a single cell. As long as it is a particular image and a kind of foundational sort of life, a blade of grass, a bit of soil. Write that outside the bottom right wedge of your altar, where I believe it says deep ancestry. And so now to draw these ancestors close, to claim their familiarity, call to mind the name of someone you know that has passed. A beloved departed. Someone near. And write that name outside the upper right-hand slice of the circle. The upper left wedge is for those yet to be, for those who will regard us as ancestors. Know that that is its orientation, but leave the space outside of that circle blank. It is held space. Now, as we welcome some more music, I invite you to move through the three quadrants that we have given name to. The three quadrants of the circle that you have described, and write one detail at a time within the wedge about each. So it could be an aspect of their appearance, or something you think you know about them, where they were, what they liked, how they moved, what they said. Use your imagination if you wish. But we want specific details to conjure them. And we want them one at a time and one after the other. First, one for your lost love, then one for your earth ancestry, then for your lineage, then back to your lost love, and so on, creating a spiral of detailed personas. So you're thinking of details for each of these elements, moving in a circle, writing one descriptor at a time. Sink into the details, really conjure them, write them in the appropriate field, and you can use music to help you generate this conjuring. So you have conjured a field, grounded in the elements, framed by the witness of our ancestors, and we are ready to receive messages. I will supply you with 2 prompts with which to oracle your ancestors. Keep in mind, we've got the center of wholeness and healing. As you listen for the answers, do your level best not to supply them yourself. Refrain as much as you're able from projecting. Really listen and let them bubble up. So centered on healing, mediated by the elements, informed by our ancestors, deep and near. I invite you to listen to music as you meditatively inquire of your forebears. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? And then, if and when that message is received by you, you can then move on to another question or another prompt, which is, what I want from you is, speaking as yourself, what I want from you, ancestors, is, what do you want from me? what I want from you is. So maybe you received a message and maybe it came half-formed, maybe it hasn't come at all, but here's the thing. Your deep ancestry, your biology isn't going anywhere. Your dearly departeds, they're not going anywhere. Your lineage is not going anywhere. So this may work on you for the rest of the day, the rest of the week. I mean, it will work on you for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of your life. It's whether or not you are attending to it, listening to it, open to receiving messages from that field. So what of that other quadrant, that other piece of the pie of wholeness, the future that we left blank? That is a bit tricky. It takes two things to bear in mind. One, it's a bit of an opening. We haven't closed the circle, so that's the progression we make from this moment is into that sector. The other thing that's really, I think, fun and fascinating to play with and to really try on is that for this person or group of people that would claim us as either biological or lineage ancestors, for them, we're dead. We are the ghosts. We are spirits bringing ancient messages, burbling into their consciousness. And we're long gone. And yet they're asking us these same questions that we presented to our ancestors. What do you want from me? And they're telling you that they need something from you. So, with healing at the center, see if you can hear them ask you, what do you want from me? And see if you can hear them tell you, their ancestors, what they want. Ceremony to a close, I would invite you to enter into a spirit of prayer with me as we say to you, Son, thank you for your light and energy. We say to the earth, thank you for giving us the skin to walk on and the skin to be in. We thank you, water, for life, and we thank you, air, for this breath. Today I would like to offer a prayer for insignificance. There's a rather big event occurring this week in our neighbors to the south. And my prayer is that that event, the election, is insignificant. And that the work of the people becomes significant. Let us give thanks also for the land on which we live and the community in which we operate. For our resilient structures and for our flexible structures. And that goes from our government right down to our own minds. So we pray for insignificance, for resilience, and for flexibility. Amen. This morning, is it still morning? It is still morning. The final hymn of this morning, or maybe after traveling back through time and forward in time, maybe time is made less significance. Our final hymn, at any rate, is Now We Sing of the Brave of Old. Of course, we won't sing. Now we hum of the brave of old.
So beautiful to have the chimes, hey? Thank you. So a few announcements. We're the North Shore Unitarians. Our mission is to empower people to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. For the folks online, if this is one of your first times visiting with us, we'd love you to say hi in the comments, the chat section. You'll probably already see lots of comments. You'll have a warm welcome here. In our community, we celebrate people from all walks of life, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter how you live, no matter who you love, and no matter how you experience the sacred. We hope you'll feel welcome here. We're a busy congregation with lots of things going on, even now in a pandemic. Hopefully everyone's reading their weekly e-bulletin. Comes out on Fridays. Janny does a great job of keeping us all connected and aware of what's going on. There's a few special things I want to draw our attention to. The most important one is that it is Jutta Vitamin's 90th birthday on Monday. Yeah! Jutta is not on email, but if anyone knows her and would love to phone her on Monday and wish her a happy birthday, she would greatly appreciate it. Happy birthday. As DJ reminded us, we're in the middle of our stewardship campaign. So if everyone has already filled out your pledges and your surveys, great. And if not, you can go to the e-bulletin and there's a link in that. There's a link from our webpage, and there's also paper copies in the foyer. So many different ways to participate. And we welcome your involvement in that. Our new small group ministries, Circles of Light, is about to begin this week. Still room for people to join. If you want to learn more about that, off the website, there's a link to a great video of Ron explaining what it is, and also some information in our e-bulletin. And lastly, about our offering, as you leave today, you can put your offerings into the baskets that are located on the at each door. And for those folks online, you can do an e-transfer through the church. And for the month of November, our offerings are going to Sheway Pregnancy Outreach Program. Just some clarification, if you put a physical donation into the basket, you need to mark whether it's going to the church and towards your pledge. And if you don't write that, it'll be assumed it's going to our funded organization of the month. And now it's time that we will extinguish our chalice. Please join together. We extinguish this flame, but carry with us the light of vision and the warmth of hope. The world calls us to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. And we go forth with courage and love.
Please stand and bow to your spirit for the benediction. You may want to, by the way, fold those altars up. It's a portable altar. You can put it in your pocket, and you'll forget about it. And then next week, when you put on these same pants, you'll be, what's that? You'll take it out, and there'll be that little reminder. It'll be kind of fun. As we leave this sacred time and sacred place that we and so many others have built here today, this altar of our spirit and our hopes, let us go forth informed by the many messages that are available to us. Let us stay sensitive to those messages, and let us connect with them through our ancestors. They've got something to say, and being mindful that we too are ancestors. Let us go forth in peace and signing.